Hello there, my name is Isaac Wabomba and today I'll be taking you back into the history. In this edition, we'll bring to you a story of how the entire national football team of Zambia that was lost in a plane crash that landed into the Atlantic Ocean. The year was 1993, the month was April, the date was 27. The day started like any other day. Activities were lined up for the day, but the most important activity was the movement of footballers of Zambian national team to Dakar, Senegal, where it was scheduled to play in a football match in their bid to qualify for the 1994 FIFA World Cup. No one knew what was waiting for them in the skies was a disaster that would consume the lives of all the footballers on board of the aircraft, consume all members of the coaching staff on board, and all the members of the flight crew. The aircraft crashed in the air and landed in the belly of the Atlantic Ocean, killing everyone that was on board. Welcome to this channel. My name is Isaac Wabomba and do not forget to subscribe. So the aircraft was scheduled to fly the team from Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, to Dakar in Senegal. But it appears that it was not possible to fly direct from Lusaka to Dakar. By the flight arrangement, the aircraft was to stop over in 3 airports to refill its tank before the final landing in Dakar. Brazzaville, Congo was the first stopover, while the second stopover was to be at Libreville in Gabon. The third stopover was to be in Abidjan in Ivory Coast, and from there the plane was to fly direct into Dakar, where the match was scheduled to take place. The plane took off from Lusaka and landed successfully in the first airport at Brazzaville in Congo. It refilled its tank and took off again. This time round, it landed at Libreville in Gabon, being its second destination for fuel. After refilling at Libreville, the plane took off for Abidjan, expecting to land safely and make a final refilling before moving to Dakar. But the plane did not reach Abidjan. Soon after takeoff from the airport of Libreville, the plane crashed and landed into the Atlantic Ocean. The cause of the crash was said to be the engine failure, occasioned by the mistake of the pilot. Soon after takeoff, the pilot observed that one of the 2 engines of the plane had caught fire. The pilot then decided to switch off the faulty engine to stop the fire from spreading into the cabin of the aircraft. Unfortunately, the pilot switched off the engine that was not on fire. By this action, the only functional engine that was supplying power into the aircraft had been mistakenly switched off by the pilot. The aircraft lost the cabin pressure and lost everything that could make it remain in the air. In the consequence, the aircraft took a nosedive and landed straight into the Atlantic Ocean. Everyone on the plane lost their life. Not a single person was rescued. It was the darkest day in the history of Zambian football. Efforts were immediately made to recover the bodies and take them home for burial. The bodies were all recovered, but out of the total number of bodies recovered, only 13 bodies were identified. The undercurrent of the ocean had bullied and disfigured most of the bodies beyond recognition. The bodies were then taken to Zambia for burial. They were buried in what became known to as Heroes Acre, just outside the Independence Stadium in Lusaka, Zambia. It was indeed a horrifying reality. It was painful. It was agonizing and difficult to comprehend. In this ill-fated crash, the very best of Zambians football talent at the time lost their lives. These were professional footballers who were already plying their trade in various club sides at home and abroad. They were the first 11 for Zambia and a few others for reserve bench. Most of them were young, with so much ahead of them in the world of football. They were a priming group of players, having beaten Italy 4-0 in the 1988 Olympic Games. So much was lost in one crash. The whole of Zambia was shaken. The whole of Africa was shaken. The other continents of the world were also shocked by this disaster. It was one of the disasters that caused so much pain to the human race. Players that lost their life in the crash were goalkeeper David Chabala, who was 33 years at the time, goalkeeper Richard Mwanza, who was also 33 years, defender Whitson Changwe, who was 28 years old, defender John Soko, who was 24 years old, defender Samuel Chomba, who was 29 years old, defender Robert Watiakeni, who was 23 years old, defender Winter Mumba, defender Ken Simambe, who was 18 years old, defender Debbie Makinka, who was 27 years old, midfielder Wisdom Mumba Chanza, who was 29 years old, midfielder Eston Mulenga, who was 31 years old, midfielder Moses Chikwalakwala, who was 23 years old, midfielder Numba Mwila, who was 21 years old, and midfielder Godfrey Kangwa. Others were Timothy Mwitwa, who was 24 years old, Kevin Mutale, who was 23 years old, Patrick Banda, who was 19 years old, Moses Masua, who was 21 years old. These were forward attacking midfielders. The crew members that died in the crash were Colonel Fenton Mone, Colonel Victor Mubanga, and James Sachika. All the three were pilots. Major Edward Nambote also died in the crash. He was the flight engineer. Corporal Thomas Sakala also died. It is worthy mentioning that the plane in the issue was a Zambian Air Force plane, hence the prefixes to the name of the crew members. Members of the coaching crew also died in the crash. There was not a single survivor in the air mishap. It is important to mention that some of the players missed the ill-fated flight because they were not released on time from their club side abroad or other logistical reasons. Alternative arrangements were thus made for such players to be in Dakar for the match, and this is how they cheated death. One of such players was captain of the national team, Kalusha Bwaya. Kalusha later assisted in picking up the pieces and forming a new national team for the country. He later became the president of Zambian Football Federation. Investigations later revealed that the aircraft had been out of service for 5 months from the late 1992 until 21st of April 1993. This flight was carried out on 22nd and 26th of April. It was reported that prior to their departure for Senegal, checks revealed a number of defects in the engine, such as particle in the oil filters, disconnected cable, and trace of heating. Notwithstanding this observation, the flight went ahead as scheduled. Family members immediately demanded for a comprehensive report of this mishap from the Zambian government, and this was not immediately forthcoming. In May 2022, several years after, $4 million was released to the families of the deceased players in compensation. The Zambian plane crash remains a painful event of football history till today. Thank you for watching this episode, and do remember to subscribe to this channel. My name is Isaac Obomba. Please follow me on all my social media accounts. Thank you.